Happy Friday, one and all, and it is a glorious Friday, not because finally I can say the following phrase. We are less than a week away from the NFL draft, but this is the second annual, most likely Patriots draft picks draft with Alex Barth and 98.5 The Sports Hub, who was kind enough to come on the Pats Interference podcast, brought to you by the CLNS Media Network. Today, you were the Barth tender, I heard, on Zolak and Bertram, first time in 2 years. You're going to be back on that 2 to 6 show here in like an hour plus. So we are stealing the big man at 98.5 on Big Board Week. I appreciate the time and you coming out yesterday to the event. I plugged Vitamin C, being a good friend and colleague and draft expert. Good to have you back, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, of course. And great job to everybody at the event. Did a great job for a great cause. I was glad to see so many people come out and meet so many people from I've only met online.
Yeah, it's interesting too. You get the you're taller than I thought, or like Callahan.
Well, I don't
more
get
pounds than I thought. Yeah,
I don't get taller.
No, you don't.
Well, the Be a Man guy took a picture with me, and he took a selfie, and he was kind enough to be like standing behind me, and he posted the picture. So now people think I'm tall, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. Be close to the camera. Be a man. Which is a bit that I got to be honest. I was reluctant that this guy who had 1 million followers, whom I'd never met before, and has only been very kind to me, talked to him twice, wanted to come to the party, take pictures, do whatever he could. I didn't know if he's serious, like full in character, or this was like a bit, or sometimes people who do characters 2 to 6 get caught and they kind of become that full time anyway. Super nice. It's all comedic. Last week was don't look at your 401k, be a man. And in this case, it was get bumped for a wide receiver because we had Pop Douglas come. And so he had to go later, be a man. It's just a good, solid bit. So again, thanks to everyone who came out to Vitamin C Brewery. We had an awesome time. We will post actually a podcast version of the night in the draft panel. You'll hear Alex here for a second, and it'll be what we think the Patriots will do. Number 4, this is me, Doug, Jeff Howe is there, Mark Daniels, Mike Giardi, Michael Hurley. Anyway, so look for that next week. In the meantime, if you want to join the show, you can donate $10 Leukemia Lymphoma Society. The link is pinned on my Twitter. You can email me. We'll do a mail fan segment, 5 to 10 minutes. Barth, I have to tell you, the last person I had on sounded like you in that this man had a big board. He was going into how many pressures Armand Mbembou and Will Campbell gave up against the same teams, 2 hand strikes and punches. So anyway, if you want to follow him up, good luck, but you donate, you can come on the show and be here. All right. What do you remember from the draft we did last year? Again, the goal being you and I go back and forth, and we're naming players we think are most likely, above all else, any position, any round, to be drafted by the Patriots. What do you remember from the first time we did this?
I remember, I'm trying to remember who I took. I went back and watched it maybe like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, because I was just looking at some of my old draft stuff. And I remember getting Drake May, and I was like, all right, check, I got one. And then just like hammering day 3 guys because I wanted to sound smart. So I think if I remember correctly, that's what I did.
I did. Did you keep score? Because I have to say, I was a terrible host that day, and then I did not keep score. I'm just going to owe you what are the annual stakes, which I would love to make this an annual tradition, which
Absolutely.
is a 4-pack of beer if you're choosing. You did get Drake May right, so there's a chance I got 0. But either way,
if I remember correctly, I think I went back and looked like right after. If I remember correctly, we both got 2.
Okay. All right, good.
That might have been me versus the Felger Maz big board. I don't remember, but
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm keeping score this year.
Okay.
You will be at the media room, or will you be at Gillette on Thursday?
So I won't be at Gillette on Thursday. I was part of the reason I was late to this, and I had to record some spots. We will be at the Brook Casino up in New Hampshire. Myself, Joe Murray.
Nice.
Full show. We'll be live on the air. We'll be meeting people. So if people want to come and check that out, I am going to miss draft night at Gillette. I do enjoy that, but radio's radio.
Friday?
Yeah, if there's availability, I'm pretty sure I'll be there Friday.
Okay. I will. I don't know what the odds are at the Brook Casino for who is going to win the most likely Patriots draft pick draft here between you and I. I think because of the research and reputation and the reason you're on of all the great work that you've done every year throughout the draft, you're probably minus 150. So in the event that the favorite wins here, David will deliver to Goliath his choice of beer, perhaps a vitamin C that is currently in my fridge, again, courtesy of one of the best breweries in Massachusetts. But those are the stakes. A 4-pack of beer. We want to guess what the Patriots are going to do next week with their 9 draft picks, which are as follows. 1 in round 1 at 4th overall, 1 in the second round at 38, 2 in the third, number 69 and number 77. This is from the Matt Judon trade.
Yep.
1 in round 4 at 106. That'll be early Saturday. Afternoon draft kicks off. You get 2 in the 5th, 144 and 171 overall. Second one from Dallas in the Joe Milton trade. And then 2 in the 7th, 220. This is by the time like everyone at home has fallen asleep. This is like Saturday, day 3 of a golf tournament, IPA in hand, slipping into the carpet. and then 238 via the Chargers from a J.C. Jackson trade that no one remembers. So with those 9 draft picks, the number one player on your board that the Patriots are most likely to draft with any of those picks is who?
Will Campbell. I mean, I'm trying to start again, hit the layup, but assuming Carter and Hunter are gone, which I think those guys will be gone. Like if I had to guess the top of the Patriots board, it would be Abdul Carter, but they're not going to have a chance to take him. So look, they need a left tackle. Mike Vrabel, when he was asked about drafting for need, downplay or didn't downplay the concept of drafting for need, but repeatedly mentioned premium position. And when asked about the 4th overall pick, premium position, tackle is truly among the premium positions. You could argue it is the 2nd or 3rd most important position in the NFL after quarterback and maybe edge rusher. So he's a guy that plays that position, has played it at a high level in the SEC. There's a case to be made that he's the best player on the board, all things considered, at that point. Ashton Genty, I think, is a better running back than Campbell is a tackle. But again, you weigh that positional value. So what happens when need meets up with best player available, meets up with a premium position? I think you get Will Campbell.
That would have been my pick. I think it's the obvious pick. Again, when folks listen to the podcast version of the show we did last night of Vitamin C, you will hear a unanimous draft panel, all expecting the Patriots, which is spoiling the podcast. Still listen to it. There was good stuff in there anyway, a lot of laughs. Because it just, look, from a need standpoint, he's good enough when you consider there's Carter and Hunter, drop, tier 2. He's in there with the Tyler Warrens, Mason Grahams, arms or not. Wouldn't be my pick, but I understand it. I'm not going to go ape shit over it. You shouldn't. He's going to be a really good player. It's just a matter of long-term fit. So that's a good pick. When I look at this now, top player off of my board, I look at this and go, okay, if I want to boost my odds, I'm not taking like a Jalen Walker, right? I don't think that's going to be the pick. So I'm not going to look at guys who could be there at number 4. I'm looking, Alex, at guys that could go anywhere between 69 overall, their first 3rd round pick, and then 106. Because the Patriots have 3 selections in those ranges, 69, 77, and 106. And the name that I keep coming back to is one that I brought up earlier this week with Dan Pizzuta, one of the best defensive fits here. This goes athletically for prototypes that Mike Vrabel liked in Tennessee. It goes from a football character standpoint. It also goes from a position of need that they have. Ty Robinson, defensive tackle out of Nebraska, 6'5", 288 pounds. You could see him in the 3rd round in certain mocks. You could see him in the 5th round if you want to go far that back. 5-year starter, leader, toughness, plays violently, 42 pressures last year, according to The Athletic. He is older. Again, that's 5-year starter. But I look at this and what Vrabel wants. And when your 3rd defensive tackle, as I've said a billion times by now, is Kairos Tonga, you want somebody who doesn't quit, has a play demeanor, and you feel like can be in rotation right away. He just screams. And you even saw this in our pal Mark Daniels did the huge draft guide. I know you've talked about him at some point too. Ty Robinson, I think, has to be up there with anybody else.
Yeah, he's high on my list. And I think not just what you said about the defensive tackle depth, but in certain situations can play on the edge as well, as a hand-down defensive end. This is a guy that plays, what's the one-year word they've used for their defense more than anything else this offseason? Violence. This guy plays violently. He is constantly after the football. He's constantly around the football. He's the kind of guy, oddly enough, do you remember Tip Raymond last year, the tight end from Illinois, where like he was everybody's fun, oh, this guy's better than everybody thinks in the 5th round, blah, blah, and then he goes in the top 100.
Yep.
Like, to me, Ty Robinson's that guy that we're all projecting right around the top 100. And if he gets picked at 69 by the Patriots, everybody will blab them and yell that it's a reach. I don't think it will be a reach because I don't think he'd get to 106. Like, this is the guy, this is one of these guys, and I have one like this on my list too, where there's always 4 or 5 players, and they usually play defense because of the fantasy football complex gets these offense players hyped up. There's always 4 or 5 guys that go like 2 or 3 rounds earlier because we're just either incredibly overthinking it or incredibly underthinking it. I think with Ty Robinson, it's a case of overthinking. Well, he's a bit of a tweener, and, he played at Nebraska, which wasn't a power, is a power traditionally, wasn't good. He's a little bit older. The dude is just always around the football and was doing that in Power 4 competition. His motor runs hot. You want to see that. Yeah, he's a Vrabel kind of player for sure.
So you are like me in that on Saturdays, our preference is to be on the couch watching college football. Yes. And that is sadly a little bit uncommon here in New England. Did you happen to catch him live? Because I only really watched the Colorado game and didn't see much of Nebraska. But did he ever make it into your notes app the way that I know you keep notes in scouting?
Oh, yeah. And there is actually a notes app. I don't remember what game it was. was it Minnesota where like they lost late? They ended up losing because they got into like a 4th and goal from the 30 and Raiola threw this ridiculous fadeaway pass. But earlier, like the only reason they were in it was I think it was Minnesota. He was just like on Brosmer constantly.
Yeah.
Him and Brosmer were, buddies the whole game. They were greeting each other every single play. He was in the backfield. And I remember looking, I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And sometimes you can't tell in the pads, right? So he's constantly back there. And I wasn't like watching to watch for him. So I don't necessarily see where he's coming from. I'm like, who's this like edge rusher they have that's constantly getting in the backfield? And I look him up. 295 pounds?
Yeah.
And he's running guys down like that. I think he blocked a kick too. So he actually is one of the guys that really popped for me during the college football season.
Good. And plus the 6 fullback carries, which I guaranteed to Dan Pizzuta last week if he comes to New England. That is a moment that I will want to see. If I do not see it, there will be an over-the-top column late in August. Why is Ty Robinson not getting the ball yet? But anyway, he was second on my board. It's close. There's a cluster here for me. I'm curious who you go next, though.
Next for me, so I'll give you the other guy who I said I think that the external draft people are sleeping on, and I mentioned him last night. It's Andrew Mukuba, the safety from Texas.
Okay.
So he got picked on the Felger Mavs big board yesterday, and I was kind of raving about it. I said I might even take him in the second, which the magazine said differently, and it was kind of okay. And I had some people reach out to me and be like, yeah, like you're not entirely wrong there. Maz brought up Earl Thomas when we were talking about him, another Texas safety. He's not Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas, more well-rounded player. Earl Thomas come down in the box, play the run, and all of that.
Does Maz know what he's doing there, by the way? Just the very obvious fast guy plays the same position at the same school kind of thing. Like I know
Maz knows safeties.
It's not his job to study them, but like he has to know that's an absolutely ridiculous future Hall of Famer, as bad as it got for Earl Thomas at the end. Like, come on.
Well, I think he was going off a body type, but it was a good pull. But like, so again, Mukuba's not going to stop the run. I don't really care because I'm putting him 20 yards behind at the back end of the defense, and I'm letting him play center field. And he is really freaking good at doing that. Can cover a ton of ground, great ball skills, makes plays on the football. He's not just a guy that's going to take away passing windows, but he's a playmaker. He can force interceptions, things like that. They've missed that guy for the last 2 years, and they can keep throwing box safeties and corners back there and, making Kyle Duggar look like a worse player than he is, making Jabril Peppers. Those guys can do it, but they're not great at it. Get somebody who's potentially great at it in Andrew Mukuba on the back end, and then let those guys play in the box where they're really good. They've met with Mukuba, I believe, at the they met them somewhere. I think it was at the Senior Bowl.
Well, Vrabel was at the Pro Day, so I'm sure he had
I think maybe that's what it was. So many meetings to remember. But they've needed that guy for so long. They had somebody in that role in Kevin Byard in Tennessee. And I don't know that they have somebody to play the Kevin Byard role here if they're trying to recreate that defense. Slightly different body type, but he's going to produce similar results.
It escapes me now. Oh, Javon Holland was that free agent this year, right? Like, and there were some whispers, rumblings, or nuggets, whatever, that the Patriots had tied to him. He went to day 2 in free agency and ends up going to the Giants. I had never heard anything that strong, but they filed that away, understanding like, look, Javon Holland's a really good player. Like that's reason number 1 you would want him on your football team. Number 2 is for that particular skill set, which is you just detailed. You don't really get with Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers and like Jalon Hawkins signed back, and they got I keep forgetting
Marcus Epps, but he's coming off a torn ACL. Jonathan Jones used to do it a lot. He's gone.
Yep. Jonathan Jones, and like we'll see where they fit. And they've hyped up Marcus Jones, which you're not going to say bad things about the new players you just got. But the point is, they do need that skill set. I would be surprised if they went up that early at 38 to get him. But that is the position, maybe along with tight end, that if they do grab someone early, like, and it is a surprise, I know something's coming I don't expect, that would be my 1 or 2 guess, is either the free safety type or a tight end. So I don't mind the pick. I wouldn't love it because I think there are other needs.
Is probably a little rich. I think I'm higher on this idea than most because there's just colleges don't play true deep safeties anymore. So you don't get a lot of these guys coming through the draft. He's pro ready, but like that's me kind of gassing him up at 38. I do it. I don't think they do it. 69, 77, or even maybe moving up a little bit into the back end of the second would make a lot of sense for me, and I think would be a good pick.
Look, you can still gas him up, and you can have all your Mukuba fumes, and you can get high on those because he was not even on my board, though I respect the pick. I will stay in Austin, though, with this Texas defense.
Okay.
I just tweeted about this player. I've talked about him 2 times on this podcast already and on someone else's podcast this morning, which I think was just called the Patriots Podcast, which made me go, why did none of us take that in the first place? Barryn Sorrell, edge player out of Texas, 6'3", 256. I've talked about him endlessly, but he was a Senior Bowl standout, team captain, plays with that relentless motor, violence. He's a little stiff, and that's where, again, we get into the 69, 77, maybe 106 type of range. But when you look at the edge, I think they'd like to upgrade from a pass rush standpoint when you look at Anthony Jennings and maybe even Harold Landry, given some of the efficiency numbers last year. He will miss tackles and fly by guys, but this is a very variable player and a freak body in terms of strength, squatting, power cleans, bench press, all that different stuff. When you perform well at the Senior Bowl, you have the tape that he does, something around 6 sacks, 44 tackles last year. Like this guy to me is just run the pick in. Anywhere, again, from 69 to 106. Barryn Sorrell he's probably going to have some form of like podcast restraining order from me if he comes in. And I will not be partial in training camp if he gets here. But he's number 3 on my board, so I'm very happy here in the second round.
And I think the other thing is he's consistent, and that's a word they've used a lot, especially at the edge. A lot of these college players, it's really, a guy will have 3 sacks one game, and then you won't see him for the rest of the month, and then, he's a 2-sack game 5 games later. You watch him, he's pretty steady. And you want that steadiness to maybe go up a level, and that's what you're hoping for when you draft him. But he's got a really good base to work with. And with this coaching staff that has done such a good job coaching up edge rushers who play like him, you get a guy where they maybe don't have to start from step 1 and they can start from steps 3 or step 4. This is the kind of guy that I was talking about nature versus nurture during the draft. If you ask me if a player is going to be good in the NFL, you have to tell me what team he's going to, because it can be different for different players. I think Barryn Sorrell is a guy that the Patriots can probably get more out of him than the average team.
Yeah, Terrell Williams was like, yep. Check, please. Done. And Vrabel was there at the pro day, which, look, coaches go to a lot of pro days. Bill used to go to a ton. It didn't guarantee anything, but just when you're trying to speak it into existence, which is basically the amount of love that I have for this person I've never met before. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. You and I have not done a receiver, a running back. You obviously went offensive tackle early. Are we getting there here in our third round?
I do have a running back on my list. I can jump to my running back here.
No. You go by your board.
I have a bunch of guys that are all kind of even.
Okay.
Because that's sort of what this draft is.
Yes.
Honestly. All right, I'll go back to the offensive line. Drew Kendall, center, Boston College.
Solid pick.
They need a long-term option at center. And there are some guys that are going to go late that I really like. Clay Webb, Jake Majors. But they have the experience through Doug Marrone with Drew Kendall. Very smart football player. He's going to give you some guard versatility, which I don't think a guy like Jake Majors will. I don't know that he's ever going to start at guard, but he's going to have to begin his career as a backup. And they can get him late. And it's a position I'd like to see them invest more at center than they're probably going to. I think they're going to kind of grab somebody later because they have Cole Strange who they might still work with. And we're all talking about James Bradberry like he's an old man. He's what, 29, 30?
Garrett, yes.
Garrett. What did I say, James? I mean, if they want James Bradberry on the roster too, I wouldn't hate that.
Certainly not at center, no. Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're going to grab a center, and that's a position where coachability is very important. By all accounts, Doug Marrone liked working with him. So if he believes he's coachable and you can get him late, that feels like a clean one.
It's such a good pick. I'm gonna be very upset with myself. I think Friday night, maybe early Saturday. No Drew Kendall. But look, yeah, the
why
Marrone
was between connection. The two BC guys? You can still grab the other because they're going to take one of those guys.
You think?
Yeah.
See, I think with Ozzie, he projects as a swing tackle, and they're still getting to know Caden, but I think Caden's physically a little bit more gifted. And I think he's already got a year in the league that has me a little bit more reluctant. Though let me pause for a second to throw this at you because I've been gaining steam on this idea of the Patriots should take a tackle at 4, Mbembou or Campbell, take a pick. And consider, Alex, trading back into the first round for another one. Am I crazy?
I don't hate it. I've had a similar take, which is take your tackle at 4 and then either a 38 or move up, get one of because I think there's 2 elite guards in this draft and a third that's like elite light. If you get Will Campbell or Omar Mbembou at 4, and then you move up or you see who falls between Gray Zabel, Tyler Booker, and Donovan Jackson, people are going to be rolling their eyes and they're going to be upset because they didn't, you're not buying jerseys of those guys. You're not drafting them in fantasy. You're not betting on them. But now your offensive line is Campbell, the guy I'm partial to, I'll use him. Campbell, Tyler Booker, Bradberry, Mike Onwenu, Morgan Moses. That's not just like coming into the offseason, the goal is just make the offensive line decent, and then you hope you build from decent down the road. We're well past decent now. Like that offensive line, dare I say, could be a positive, could be an asset for them. So,
I forgot what that looks like. You'll have to forgive me. I don't know what an asset of an offensive line.
I'm guessing here. But, you're going tackle guard early, and you're maybe moving up, so it limits you to address some other positions. But if there's one spot I want them to hammer, it's the offensive line. So maybe there's an in-between here. Maybe Donovan Jackson is kind of a midpoint because he can play some tackle too. So that could be your take or my take, and you figure it out in time. But I don't hate them going offensive tackle the first 2 picks as long as, like, I don't know. If they were like, all right, we're going to take Will Campbell, but he might play guard, so we'll take a tackle later. Don't take Will Campbell if you think he's going to play guard. Maybe he ends up down the road. But and I say this as a Will Campbell guy, if you're taking Will Campbell, take him for conviction. If you're taking him half as a guard, he's not worth the 4th overall pick, if that's their evaluation. If they take him believing he's a tackle and he ends up moving inside and they just blew the evaluation, that happens. But don't actively pick a guard at 4.
Very notable to me. Well, first of all, pause. Going to go back. I don't hate it is often what my wife says to me when I cook. So knowing that the cooking is not very good, I feel like you softened as you went through the explanation. Oh, Callahan might not be totally crazy here, but the Donovan Jackson pick, not only splits the difference between your take of tackle guard and mine, perhaps tackle, because he was much better, Donovan Jackson was, filling in for Josh Simmons. Folks who don't know, Ohio State guard turned tackle during their national championship run. Got better to, I think some teams are considering him full-time at tackle. And I'm sure he and his agent would be like, yes, of course. It's millions of dollars more in my pocket if I get a second contract. To flash forward to the Campbell pick. Now I just lost what I was going to tell you.
Something about him moving a guard.
Something about him moving a guard. Yeah, we'll forget it. We'll move on.
If you remember, put it out on Twitter because I'm curious.
Drew Kendall is a really great pick, and it's going to stick with me. I'll say this too. Garrett Bradbury signed for $3.8 million guaranteed. That is by no means a lock for him to start. Maybe not even have a roster spot. They'd happily eat that money. Oh, this is what it was. When we talk about centers, period, end of story. It was notable to me that in his interview with Felger over at the owners' meetings, Elliott Wolf said, yes, we could so Will Campbell at tackle or guard. You did not hear or guard from Mike Vrabel at the owners' meetings at the same time. I do believe the Patriots are a little split, which is common to front offices, about Will Campbell at number 4 and whether or not you would like to take him there. But the fact of the matter is they put themselves in a position where you really cannot go through day 1 and definitely not day 2 of the draft without an offensive tackle. So that's read into that as you will.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. I was talking about that on the radio the other day. It was the question first off was like, Wolf said, we think he can play tackle and guard, which I think Will Campbell is a tackle. I really do. But I still think he can play guard. Doesn't take away, right? You get what I'm saying with that? And then
it's additive. It's not a statement.
And by the way, most tackles I think are better at guard. I think that's just no offense to guards, but I think it's a little bit easier of a position to play. The other thing is, to your point, like you look at those 2 quotes and now you ask yourself, who has final say? Who has more power in that room? Mike Vrabel or Elliott Wolf? Mike Vrabel was asked last week, you're giving this press conference, do you have final say? And he didn't really answer that. But, it's him and Cowden, and if it's 2 versus 1, and
exactly,
I put more weight in Mike Vrabel said, which was, I saw him play it at the SEC, and he played it at a high level, talking about left tackle. Said the same thing about Armand Mbembou too. So there's that. But I'm guessing, and this is me, no inside information, I'm guessing. If it gets down to it, Mike Vrabel's vote wins out.
That's accurate. Put it that way. All right. My next pick. This is the only receiver on my board, and it's because I'm very confident they will take a receiver, and I think they should. They might even take 2. Who knows? But I don't know exactly who's going to be available when, because this receiver class has a wide variety of opinions. Like Jaden Higgins, some see his early second-round pick, can't miss. I like Jaden Higgins a lot. The people who say he struggles against man, fine, I can't argue against that. Numbers aren't great. The one player, though, in that range, and this would probably have to be 69, if not 77, might be a slide, is Jack Bech from TCU.
Okay.
who was MVP of the Senior Bowl, 6'1", 214, fits well enough the X mold where probably tops out as a number 2. But in the meantime, you get a guy with real speed, outstanding body control, 2 drops in the last 3 years, according to The Athletic, some injury history, which factors into those numbers. But a guy you know what you're getting with, who's going to maximize his tools, and started with one of the wildest stats of this entire draft class. Led LSU in receiving yards in 2021, which was a screwed up season for LSU, but a stacked receivers room from a talent standpoint. So again, the typical boxes, toughness, Senior Bowl, high character is going to check out, has the body type that I think they're going to be looking for in this draft. You can go Kyle Williams, you can go a bunch of different guys. This is the only one, which I've now tipped you off to some part of the rest of my board. Jack Bech at TCU is my next pick. And I feel good about it. Not as good as Drew Kendall, but it's a guy I landed on.
It's a good pick. Look, I have no wide receivers because I don't know what they're looking for, because I don't know how they view Diggs. I don't know how they view the young guys last year. Like, is McDaniels going to try to go and get his Edelman and a guy that you can give 120 targets a year? Does Vrabel want an X and try to find the next A.J. Brown? Like, there's really not a receiver this year I can rule out them taking, except, unfortunately, I like this guy. I don't think they'll take him, is Luther Burden, because I don't think they're going to love some of the questions, which I think are overblown about some of his outbursts on the sideline last year. Like, Drew Lock forgot how to play football. I would be frustrated too. I don't blame the guy. But outside of that, like, I didn't put any receivers, but Beck, like, almost fits into that because I think he can be an X. I think he can be a big slot.
Mm-hmm.
I think he maybe play a little Z. So if you don't know what you want stylistically and you're just looking at traits, he's got good size, good hands, he's a smart player. He's not the fastest receiver in the draft, but he's got good speed. Like, I would be curious how they're going to use him. Does he become your X, and is he like almost a souped up version of Mac Hollins, what you're trying to get out of Mac Hollins, but obviously with a much higher ceiling? Or, there's some flashes of Jacoby Myers there. And do you try to turn him into a physical big slot? Like, there's a lot of different ways they could go. So I really like him. There's also, I'll just throw in one more. If they don't take him, I don't have him on my list because I don't know. Again, I'm so out of touch with what the Patriots want at receiver. But if they miss him, I stack the board sometimes like, all right, there's like the first round guy, like this, like a couple years ago, Pop Douglas was day 3 Zay, is what I called him. So you had Zay Flowers on day 1 writing down.
Right.
So I like Jack Bech. Day 3 Jack Bech to me is Isaac Tesla from Arkansas, who almost made my list. So that's another guy I'd put on there.
Cool. All right. Let's go through these next two a couple quickly. We have a giant mailbag a little bit later. So who is going to be your 4th pick?
So I said I had a running back. I am going to go with Dylan Sampson from Tennessee.
Good pick on my board.
I think they're going to take between him and Brashard Smith. So now it'll be Smith, and I'll regret it. But I think they're going to take a running back higher than people expect. And I think McDaniels wants to go back to that early down, passing down dynamic. It's going to help Ramondre Stevenson a lot. It's going to help Drake May a lot. So Dylan Sampson's not the true pass catching back that a guy like Brashard Smith or LaQuint Allen or Woody Marks is. But he has the tools to be that guy, and he's maybe more explosive than those guys. Smith is faster, but I think that Sampson's a big play threat because he's more agile. He's better in the open field. If you want to get Drake May, a guy who he can check down a 5-yard throw to that can turn that into a 25-yard gain, I mean, you draft Aston Gentry at the top, but they're not going to do that. So looking further, and Amari Hampton won't be there. So looking further down, they've met with Dylan Sampson, tried and tested in the SEC. He comes from that weird offense, which definitely helped him out a little bit. Might be a year until he fully gets going. If they take him, he'd be a guy that I'm not expecting much year 1. I'd be, everybody would be saying he sucks, he's a bust. And I'd be telling people to calm down, wait for year 2.
Yep.
But I think he does some nice things that they don't really have somebody right now that can do offensively.
Smart pick. He's my favorite watch in this whole running backs class after Ashton Gentry, who I just didn't spend time on. I watched enough of his games. We know what he is. We know where he's going to go, and it's not going to be the New England Patriots. Trevor Etienne was the top running back on my board, and I have a couple more. But he just took a pre-draft visit to New England, runs a 4.4. He is a tough runner, checks the Vrabel box. He is a natural pass catcher, checks something for McDaniels. Top running back at the Senior Bowl, as voted by the opposing team and opposing defense. Is undersized at 5'8", 200. But the 30 visits have to tell you something, and they might want to clean up, him being suspended for Georgia's season opener and the reckless driving and underage alcohol, which I don't think they're going to care a whole lot about. But You need to get him in the building. You need to spend time with him to figure out whether or not they should care maybe a little bit more about that. And so I like the fact that he doesn't have a ton of wear and tear and is an all-around back. His relative athletic score was about an 8 out of 10, which is like fine, not great. But just a collection of all those. Again, the Senior Bowl, the pre-draft visit, athletic enough, versatile. He fits more in the 69 to 106 range I keep referencing. And I think Dylan Sampson, who again was on my board, but lower because I just think there's a good chance, unless they move up from 69, that he'll be gone by then. Yeah. Even if that would be the guy that I would take personally and certainly want, and maybe even is higher on their board than Trevor Etienne.
No, it's fair. Like once you get past, even with Hampton and I think Travion Henderson, there's some gray area, but then you get into Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Cam Skattebo. I don't know that there's a real consensus. Like not all of those guys are going to be there at 69. Some of them will fall, but I think one or two of them will be. What's the order going to be? Couldn't tell you. Because they're all like out of 100, they'd all grade out similarly, but they all do very different things. So what teams are looking for running backs? What are their preferences? It's really hard to project how that group is going to sort out. You could probably throw RJ Harvey in that group as well. Another guy I like for the Patriots. It's a crowded group. It's a crowded running back class. So it's tough to project, but they're like 69, 77. That's prime range for running back in this draft. It's prime range for them. It's just a matter of what does it look like? Who do teams like ahead of them who maybe gets that little bump?
Can we talk about Cam Skattebo for a second?
Yeah, always. That's my most fun running back watch.
Okay. Is he on your board?
No.
Okay. He's not on mine either. And I came really close, Alex, because yes, he would be second to me behind Dylan Sampson as far as is most fun. And that like a dude who will blow you over. There's a screw or two too tight. It's not loose with him. Like he's just going to absolutely kill you. He's got incredibly soft hands. He's light in his feet. Like you think about Ramondre, he's a bit bigger and they still have the same similar agility. The thing that held me back was the 4.62 and the 40, which sometimes absolutely is overblown. You have receivers in the NFL who run 4.6s and are outstanding. And James White, even for example, ran a 4.57 back in the day. Yeah. Very different back, but will probably serve the same purpose. I have no idea where he's going to go. But wherever he does, I will tell you, I will spend 5 to 10% more time watching that team to see what Cam Skattebo did that weekend, because that's just how fundamentally fun this dude is and violent and running. Like this is a Mike Vrabel back. I just don't know where the hell he's going to go. And there are so many other options that I think will you know what, Elliott Wolf, though, I'm now going back because the Packers like bigger backs. You know this, right? Like he fits he fits a lot of boxes. So tell me why, if I don't know why he's not on my board, why didn't he make your board?
So, well, one of it was just numbers. Like if we did 10, he probably would have been on there. Mm-hmm. But the reason I'm a little lower on him, I think there's a recognition, the way that they've talked about building a culture and building a program, and just a recognition of the draft issues in the past. Robert Kraft has talked about how important it is to hit on the draft, that you're not, I think, as weird as this sounds, you're always taking a long-term approach with the draft, right? But I think especially this year, this top 100, he's going to go top 100. You're looking for guys that are 10, 12-year projections. Now, you might shrink that number a little bit at running back just by nature of maybe the position. Maybe by half,
if I'm being honest. 5 to 6 years, yeah.
But this is a guy that is 23 years old. He's got a lot of mileage on him. And he's not as big as people think he is. It's like 5'10", 205, 210. Like, he's not Mike Allstott. Mike Allstott was 245 pounds. Mike Allstott was a tank.
Why do people make that comparison, do you think? Is it just the height and the weight, or is there something else there about them?
I actually have a Mike Allstott-ish. I won't compare anybody to Mike Allstott. It's like how you don't compare receivers to Randy Moss or tight ends to Rob Gronkowski, but I have a closer one. But I wonder where it came from. He did look like him in that game against Texas, but
he looked awesome.
Like, it's funny. I was talking to Evan Lazar about this, and he compared Cam Skattebo to Tim Tebow in the sense that, like, he's built for the college game, but how does it translate? And like somebody who might be burst early but have a short career, I do worry about durability and long-term impact when it comes to Cam Skattebo, because the speed that he has is going to go relatively quickly. He's not built like a guy like Derrick Henry or like Mike Allstott to take the hits he's going to take the way he runs. He's probably going to play special teams. That's even more contact. And if you're trying to build, think back to those drafts, Devin McCourty, Dante Hightower, Rob Gronkowski, Matthew Slater, guys who were here for a long time. I mean, those guys, that's a very lofty goal, but I think they want guys like that. Cam Skattebo is going to be good when he gets to the NFL. I don't know that he's a guy that's still going to be here making an impact in a decade. And I think that's something that they're going to put some weight on, especially in the top 100. If he was going to go in like the, that 141 pick, yeah, if he's still there, certainly. I think they'd be a lot more eager to take him. In the top 100, I think they're taking a more long-term look.
So the reason I kept him on the forward just hit me, and it's because he profiles too similarly to Rhamondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, which is to also say a much more short-term view. But I think you have to weigh when you talk about you want to build your receiving core like a basketball team and have a point guard with a slot guy. You want a big X who's going to be the center, go up and get it kind of player. They need to do that in the backfield. And Gibson and Stevenson are both good receivers, one cut type of style runners. But I think they could use a little speed back there. Robert Kraft knows they need speed back. So that turned me away from Cam Skattebo. But the Tim Tebow thing, I mean, Evan, come on. I know that's half facetious. The only thing is that they had similar completion percentages. I think the last time we've seen them play football, because Cam Skattebo, I think, is like 6 of 13 throwing the ball, which is Tim Tebow-esque. But Cam Skattebo is going to have a better NFL career, no?
The irony in it, he was more talking about like tenure, like length, than like impact.
So but like a James Robinson, low end, like Terrell Davis for people who are trying to
that would be better. I don't remember because there was something came up relevant to Tebow when we were having this conversation. It was right after he got off the air. But the irony is because Evan's like, in this running backs don't matter group, he meant it like as a down. And I got all excited. I'm like, no, that's actually a great comp. They run the ball the same way. Yeah. Like if Tim Tebow had moved to running back like he should have, yes, Cam Skattebo is what I think that would have. Tim Tebow is bigger, but I think that's what that would have looked like.
All right, let's get back on the tracks.
I know you said it was supposed to be quick, and now we're on a hold.
I know. My bad.
This is what you get when you have Alex Barth on the show.
This is fifth round. Here we go. We got 3 picks left apiece.
All right. So I teased the all-stock comp, so I'll just go to it right now. Robbie Ouzts, Alabama. So he was tight end at Alabama, played a little fullback under Bill O'Brien, who he called a mastermind at the Combine. Talked about working with him, said O'Brien talked with him about like Heath Evans film. So when he's watching Heath Evans film, he's ready. He's going to move to fullback at the next level, 6'2", 274. You talk about a guy that's built. Like he's all muscle. He's just thick and in the way. And you watch him get out and lead block when they run some of that creative stuff with Jalen Milroe, and he's just planting guys. But he doesn't look out of place in the passing game. Had a couple catches last year, caught a wheel route for like a 45, 50-yard touchdown. Has a little move to him. So if they want that, like I think they want to bring the fullback back, but I don't think it's going to be like the Jakob Johnson, James Devlin extra lineman fullback. The guy will play that role, but I think they want, and not pure Kyle Juszczyk either, where he's like an extra running back, something in between. So Ouzts isn't quite as big as Patrick Ricard, right? Patrick Ricard's in the 300s. Ouzts, again, is in the 270s. But somebody like that who has the big body but is a plus athlete for their size. They brought in Giovanni Ricci, who isn't quite that big, but like plays a similar style. If that's the kind of player they're looking for, Robbie Ouzts fits. Robbie Ouzts really fits. Now, my only question for you, Andrew, as I picked this, I put him on my list, and I should have asked you, do UDFAs count? Because he might not get drafted.
No.
They might sign him as a UDFA.
No, but look, that's where you have 2 7th-round picks, and you go, we don't want to fight over a guy. And it's an interesting pick, and you swayed me more the longer you went on, because I think it's important to remember that as much as the Patriots were a one-back offense, 90+% of the time with ABP, and strictly a one-back offense with Bill O'Brien before that, Matt Patricia, they're going to get back to some more 2-back looks here with Josh McDaniels. And you just don't have the personnel right now to do that. Very, very often it means a fullback. Sometimes, though, it means the pony package, which is the 2 halfbacks. And you saw, in the best version of this towards the end of McDaniels' tenure was the Rex Burkhead, James White tandem. And maybe you could deploy Rhamondre and Antonio Gibson in there, but you get Ouzts in there as a lead blocker. You're not messing around, I formation, HB dot, whatever you want to do. Like, you can't do that right now. You could, though, if you do take Ouzts. So it's interesting pick. All right, my next one is running back. And I don't think we'll have this player on your board. I do think you like him because he does have some tread on his tires. He just turned 24. He's 5'8", 205, RJ Harvey. And it's the 4.4 speed. He's explosive, super explosive in his cuts, which was verified in his vertical and broad jumps. Really, really high marks there. More than 1,400 yards in back-to-back seasons. 20 catches, almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Last year as a receiver. So you've got the natural runner, soft hands. I think he just needs more chances. And maybe even do a little kick return. Like this is hey, if you want to make the roster, add value. The more you do, better chances you are. I do like that he was a captain again towards the end. This would be, you would hope, late third, early fourth. But if there's a run on backs and he's the only one left, I could see this despite the smaller size and the fact that he's got a lot of tread in his tires compared to some other guys.
So honestly, that kind of what you just said there is why I don't have him on my board. Not the tread on the tires. He's a guy that I think is going to go a lot higher than projected. I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe sneaks into that top 50, top 60, because his game translates really well to the NFL. Like the thing about a guy like Ashton Jeanty, he's incredibly talented. Ashton Jeanty is probably the wrong guy to use for this example because he's just otherworldly. But like Amari Hampton, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what he was doing at UNC, he's not going to be asked to do in the NFL. It's going to be less RPO heavy. There's going to be more, probably more under center. Like he could go to one of these shotgun heavy teams, like probably more under center, things like that. RJ Harvey, now he's not going to be like an under center power back, but the role he plays at UCF exists in the NFL. I don't think there's going to be a ton of translation. It's just going to kind of be, hey kid, go do what you do. And those players are super rare in the draft because college football and the NFL keep growing further and further apart. So I think teams value that. I think teams really value that, hey, we don't really have to teach this kid a ton of new responsibilities. He's going to have to learn the playbook still, but it's like what we see on tape is what we're going to ask him to do. There's not a ton that we have to project here.
Yeah. Okay. We each have 2 more picks left. And I will say part of the reason I went with Harvey too is I want to play the numbers game running back. Dylan Sampson I had lower for those same reasons. I think he could sneak into the top 50. He's younger. He's got less tread on the tires. He's a big play waiting to happen. There's a different type of projection involved with him versus Harvey for retails you also described. But I needed 2 backs in there because with only 3 on the roster, including shout out Sorrell Jennings, who came to the Vitamin C event last night.
Yeah.
They're going to take one. So that's why I went there. All right. Your 6th round pick here.
This is the last one?
No, we got 2 more each.
2 more? Okay.
Yeah.
There's not as much overlap. I have to make choices now. All right. I'm going to say this guy. I was so high on this guy at the beginning of the process, and then everybody stopped talking about him, including me. And I have no idea why, because he is a Patriot. Maybe it's range. Maybe it's because he's in between their picks, but I could see them getting aggressive. Say they take tackle at the top of the draft. All the Jalen Walker noise tells me somebody in that building really thinks adding another high-level edge rusher is important.
I know who this is. Maybe
if we don't get Jalen Walker at the top, we're getting it with our next pick. That would be the Ohio State University's Jack Sawyer. He has been compared to Mike Vrabel. He was the one firing up the team in the huddle before the national championship game. He is, I'm sure, a very nice guy off the field, a total a-hole on it. He's mean. He's nasty. He's violent. He's physical. He gets to the quarterback. He forces turnovers. He's not the best athlete, but he makes up for it with brute strength and aggression, which I think they will love. You put that guy, Keon White, Christian Barmore, and Milton Williams down on the line, you're going to hate your life as an offensive lineman working against those 4 guys. They're going to make your life hell for 60 minutes. And I think that more than anything else is what Mike Vrabel wants at the end of the day. He wants the other offense to not – what was the John Gruden quote when he went and talked to Wisconsin? Said, like, a lot of people have dreams. I'm more a fan of nightmares. I want to be somebody's nightmare. I can see Vrabel doing a little bit of that. I think he wants his defense to piss offenses off. Jack Sawyer is the kind of player that's going to piss off an offense.
Can we say the quiet part out loud as well in the comp, which I think is more than fair? Nothing you said was wrong, but why do Mike Vrabel and Jack Sawyer come up together so often?
Well, Sawyer's also been compared to Rob Ninkovich, so.
Oh, okay. What do the 3 of them have in common? Can we say it? They're white guys, Alex. Yes.
Hopefully that they're future Patriots, but the skin tone similar as well. But
yeah,
no, I didn't watch Mike Vrabel. Like I was 8 years old, so I can't say I'm super familiar with Mike Vrabel. But like from what you hear about Vrabel as a player, I think it's more the mentality than like the on field. But it would stand to reason that if Vrabel is going to be so big on culture, he's going to want guys who think like him, not in the sense of yes men, but just guys that take that same approach to the sport of football. That's Will Campbell. That's Jalon Walker. That's Jack Sawyer. Like there's guys in this draft that it clearly seems like have that same philosophy.
Yeah, look, we just have to acknowledge, some of the comps that come up. Edelman was always,
Right.
Wes Welker. It's like, yeah, they played for the Patriots, and all the smaller white guys like that, they just get grouped together. I think the games are different from watching Mike as a pro. He's also taller, he's longer.
Yeah.
Jack Sawyer isn't really neither of those things in terms of, you wouldn't call him a long player relative to a lot of the edge guys, but he is a dog. Like he is nonstop. There is an FU mentality in there. He will get his hands up at the right time too. He's a heady player. The leadership he'll have, speaking about Mike, all the intel he needs on Jack Sawyer. I like him. He made my list of potential edge picks. Didn't make my board here because I just so in on Barryn Sorrell. But if he gets picked, 38 is probably a little high, but 69 and go up and get him in the 50s, or wait if he falls. Like absolutely could see Sawyer there, not a problem. I've not taken as many guys who took 30 visits as I had hoped to, which is my fault. I built the board. This is nobody else's fault but mine. I'm going to take one now. Jacob Parrish, corner out of Kansas State.
Good one.
And he's 5'9". He's 191. So, he projects as a nickelback. He played both outside and inside in Manhattan, Kansas. Highly competitive. The thing I like most about him is not, what we do on receivers is, they run block their asses off. And corners, they tackle really well, though he does. He's only played corner for about 3+ seasons. So this is a guy whose ceiling we don't really know yet. And he's played press. He said 21 pass breakups in 24 career games. Again, the 30 visit. Maybe he replaces Marcus Jones in 2026 because Marcus is going into a contract year now. And I think he would follow Marcus as a third-round pick. So again, 69, 77 overall for the Patriots here. There's just a lot that lines up. And even before Justin Hamilton, their new corners coach, was talking Marcus Jones up like it was, a cousin he really liked. I still think there's a fit here long-term for a nickel, which is a position Mike Vrabel really likes. So if they invited him for a 30 visit on top of all the other stuff, plays man, physical, there's a ceiling here. I think he fits as a Patriot.
Well, I think there's a short-term need too. Like I really like Marcus Jones. He's a good player. He struggled to stay healthy. So, and they don't really have depth there. Parrish reminds me a lot of Jonathan Jones. I mean, Jonathan Jones coming out, not Jonathan Jones now, but a guy that can maybe play some safety for you as well. Is going to be versatile, is going to give you really competitive physical reps in the slot. Yeah, he's their kind of defensive back. Like he kind of jumps off to me as a guy that if they're going to value, and I know it's a new coaching staff, but to your point, Andrew, like or not your point, this was on the radio earlier. It's too many shows, but like they're keeping the guys they want to keep, and they didn't make any big changes in the secondary. So I'm assuming the philosophy is going to be similar there. And this is the kind of guy that fits in. So that's a really good pick. I could totally see him in the third round. And yeah, now you have more flexibility on Marcus Jones. And that's both in the short term. You can play him more on offense. You can play him more in the return game because you have more depth there. You have like really solid depth. You're not kind of reaching. And then when you get to the offseason, as much as I like Marcus Jones, it is a business. He wouldn't be a guy you have to pay.
No.
Because Jacob Parrish can step into that role.
No, especially not. All right, we have one pick more each. Then we got to get to the mailbag. Who are you going off into the sunset with, hoping to reach and find a 4-pack of beer on the other side?
I have 2 left on my list because I did some extras in case we.
Oh, same here.
Do I take the shot in the dark with the kicker, or do I go tight end?
Go tight end.
I'll go tight end. Yeah, the kicker's obvious. It's Andres Borregales. He's the only kicker that's going to get drafted. Mitchell Evans, tight end from Notre Dame.
Cool.
Who Good they player. Have met with. I don't think they've had a 30, but I'm pretty sure they did meet with him. I like Evans. He's going to go probably in that 140, 141 range. Maybe if they move back from 106, want to set themselves up more on day 3, give us more work on Saturday. What I like about Evans is he's a short and long-term projection. So 6'5", 250 pounds. He's going to come right in. The minute he signs that contract, he is the best blocking tight end on this roster, and they need that. So he's going to give them that element there, but he has some sneaky athleticism. It's sneaky because he tore his ACL in 22. He came, or in 23. He came back last year, but it's that thing where, it's 2 years removed from the ACL is usually where you're at your best. So, and Notre Dame doesn't throw the ball a lot, or really at all. So he didn't get to show, like, there's such limited sample size with his receiving between the injury and how Notre Dame ran their offense. But I think there's potential there to tap into, significant potential. So he's going to be your blocking tight end right away. Austin Hooper's in his 30s on a 1-year deal. Hunter Henry's in his 30s. And in 2 or 3 years, as those guys move on, it's not a guarantee, but it's a 5th-round pick. he's a guy that, maybe has a shot to move in and become your starting tight end.
I like it a lot. Tight end was another position I considered, and just I don't know what they want or when they want it. Hooper's on a 1-year deal. Hunter Henry's likely on the way out in the next year or two, maybe 3, which is not to wish him away. I think he's been great for the organization in a very tumultuous time since he signed in 2021. Yeah. But you just know the age and the trajectory of these players in their careers. You need another tight end. I just don't know how high they want to take one. So that's good.
So I'm with you, and I think they can take him later because it is a good tight end class.
Good class, yeah.
Mitchell Evans usually be a fringe top 100 pick, but this year he's not. Part of the reason I think they're going to take one, I don't know exactly what kind of analytics they're using, but they've talked about being analytically driven. One of the big things with analytics, and when I'm talking about analytics, and there's something there because I refuse to use them as much as possible.
We've done this, you and I, the radio.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember Boxing Day.
But the analytics people are big on breakout age, which is basically like how young does a player become good? How long does it take a player to become good? That can be individual players and become positions. Tight end generally has a much longer runway to hitting the ceiling. That's part of what made Brock Bowers so unbelievable. Not just how good he was, but you look at the rest of the best tight ends in the league, they didn't hit that until year 2, 3, 4, 5. Like they were not, Kittle was not a breakout rookie. He was fine, but he would, like, these guys take time. So if they look at that and they're going to weigh that, okay, well, Hunter Henry we have for 2 more years, but we don't want to draft his replacement in 2027 because it's going to take that guy a couple years to get going. We want to have that guy on the roster so that when he's done, the next guy is ready. So, that can wait another year. I don't think it has to be this year, but if they're going to take that analytic approach when it comes to breakout, it does tell you to draft the tight end before you need him.
And ideally a guy who's got a trait you can work with now, like you're referencing with the run blocking, and you develop and round out the rest of his game. And when you have the requisite size, 6'5", 250, prototypical tight end, you have a potential to be that all-around player in a year or two. My last pick, I'm going to double up at corner and also go with a day 3 guy. The rest of these guys, I just keep talking about day 2, 3rd round, maybe early or late 2nd. Mac McWilliams at a UCF.
Oh, great pick.
So I reported this on the pod earlier this week. The Patriots really like him. They legitimately do. And he had good practices at the Senior Bowl. Not a great game, but teams stay for the practices. Some do not stay for the game. Again, they annually pull picks out of there. Vrabel did the same in Tennessee. Ran a 4.41 at the combine. Strong, relentless, probably a little bit better in zone, but plays inside now. The ball skills are what is going to keep him probably, again, as a day 3 pick. Could be 4th, could be 5th, maybe early 6th round. You like the physicality. He transferred from UAB, where he was a captain before he got to Central Florida. Has return punts. I don't have to go on and on and on. His brother's name is also Fish, which is going to come up when I do radio on Tuesday and do 2 guys and 1 lie with Toucher and Hardy. But I have to stand by the reporting. I think this is a dart throw on day 3 for me. No idea where he was going to go. There was a kid, you probably remember. He went to the Vikings. He was a corner from USC that they also really liked and fit a similar mold. Man coverage corner.
Last year?
3rd round, yes, which is going to kill me. But anyway, he was another guy I heard and put in every mock over and over and over again. We covered here on the pod, which if not, I'll look it up here in a second because it's important. Mac McWilliams, though, is a guy. So that's my 7th round pick. Okay, I will recap my team. You'll run down yours, and then we'll get to the mailbag. So the 7 picks I think the Patriots are most likely to make in this draft. Number 1, Ty Robinson, defensive tackle out of Nebraska. Barryn Sorrell, edge out of Texas. Jack Bech, TCU wide receiver, MVP of the Senior Bowl. Trevor Etienne, running back out of Georgia, who took a 30 visit to Foxborough. RJ Harvey, running back out of UCF. This is your James White reincarnated 11 years later. Jacob Parrish took a 30 visit, cornerback out of Kansas State, would play nickel. Same with Mac McWilliams, cornerback out of Central Florida.
Was it Caden Bullock, by the way?
No. I'm going to look this up now.
But I love that. Like, I love Mac McWilliams, and I said, like, the day 2, day 3 guys. Day 3, Jacob Parrish. So there you go. And I think he's being projected to, I'd be ecstatic if they added him. I think he can play some safety too. Mine were, I don't remember what order I said them in because I was just checking them off. Will Campbell, tackle, LSU. Jack Sawyer, defensive end, Ohio State. Drew Kendall, center, Boston College. Andrew Mukuba, safety, Texas. Mitchell Evans, tight end, Notre Dame. And Robbie Ouzts, tight end / fullback, Alabama.
Very good. Mekhi Blackman, that was the corner last year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, might have been 2 years ago. Anyway, that's where we're at. All right, we're going to take a quick break and come back with your questions. The oldest, dustiest questions in the history of the Pass Interference podcast because I asked for these on Monday. They have just been sitting around. My apologies, but Alex and I are going to answer them, and then we'll get out of here. Can you feel it? Can you hear it? Can you see it? One of the best times in the sports calendar is coming up on the horizon. No, not Patriots OTAs, not minicamp, not training camp. I am talking about the NBA playoffs, baby, because, look, as the Patriots have decided to sit out on their own accord the postseason the last 2 years, I've had the great honor and joy of going to Celtics games at a sold-out TD Garden crowd for the last 4 years for the Herald. And I'm going back, even if my work won't send me, because thanks to Gametime, I can get in with the lowest price guarantee to any NBA playoff game this year. And you should too, because let's say you find even a lower price elsewhere. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference because of their lowest price guarantee. And when you go to Gametime, unlike other places, you find an all-in pricing right up front. No fees, no extra charges, no this, no that. Just here's the number. If you want the tickets, boom, they're all yours. And best yet, you can see the view from your seats before you even get there. So if you want to deliberate, whether it's the Celtics or the Knicks or the Lakers or the Bulls aren't going anywhere, whomever you want to go see, you can see what it's like in your seat and compare in real time, but only with Gametime. So take all the guesswork out of buying tickets for NBA games or NHL or concerts or shows by going to Gametime and using Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account at Gametime and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, we are back. Leading off, Echo is going big picture here. And maybe he meant to send this in February. I don't know. Quote, a lot of talk about Steve Spagnuolo being the best defensive coordinator of all time. Is it safe to say that Josh McDaniels is the best offensive coordinator of all time? I mean, the guy has 6 Super Bowls and Spags has 4.
I mean, he's up there. Like, so we're not counting coordinators who became head coaches, I would assume, in this.
We're not doing the definitive history of like ranking offensive coordinator. So
right.
You can do whatever.
He's up there. I mean, he's not Andy Reid, right? But Andy Reid had all the success as head coach, but he's got to be up there. Yeah, with that success, reinventing the offense for Tom Brady time and time again, I would say he's up there.
Yeah, I would. I think too, play caller is probably the best way to capture this, right? You know, in terms of you group the head coaches who have offensive backgrounds with the coordinators. But yeah, why not? And I would also say, to Josh's credit, you know, and it should be noted, didn't win the first 3 Super Bowls of the Patriots dynasty as the offensive coordinator. Like you say, 6. I mean, he might have been a personnel assistant for that first one in 2001, but he's done it in different ways. They've been spread, they've been power spread, they've been multiple backs. You know, Cam Newton here didn't go far, but you got the most out of Mac Jones. So yeah, I think you have him in the conversation. GM1, if they draft Will Campbell, do you think the Patriots commit to, quote, protecting May and draft a guard or center? He mentions Tate Ratledge and Seth McLaughlin too.
Yeah, so we just talked about this. I love the idea of going tackle guard off the rip and just building that line. Seth McLaughlin's another player that almost made my list. If they want that future center, would have been the top center taken in this draft if he hadn't torn his Achilles. Obviously, that's something you have to manage. That's why he's going to be a 5th-round pick, but he could, you know, you're going to get a red shirt. He's going to be on PUP. Just kind of learn behind the scenes for a year, and then next year I think he'd have a good chance if he's healthy to win the starting job.
Yeah, I have cosign. Mark, keeping going with the center talk. Let's get really exciting and talk centers. Would it be more beneficial to target Lampkin, North Carolina center coming out, who Drake May has familiarity with, or would you rather target the local guy in Drew Kendall?
So Lampkin's like 5'11", 270 pounds. You talk about worries about measurement.
Longer wingspan than Will Campbell.
He does have a longer wingspan. He's also a freak athlete.
Yeah.
I don't hate the idea of drafting Willie Lampkin as a fullback. Like if I was going to add him, put that athleticism to work, move him around, that's how I'd use him personally. I'd rather have Drew Kendall. I know I sound like it. The Will Campbell's, he's 6'6". He's 6'6". He's 300 something pounds. A 5'11" center. That's tough, man. That's just tough for me to project. I'll take Drew Kendall, but I would take Willie Lampkin for another role.
Yeah, I would take Drew Kendall too. I think he's just a better player, and the familiarity stuff goes out the window, especially when rookies come in with a new system, whole new environment, coaches, techniques. Like they're swimming in their own business and assignments, let alone getting on the same page as their teammates, which obviously you need to do with a quarterback, but like snapping the ball, man, just know where to put your hands and know when to snap it and when to take it. Right. And that's as simple as it gets. Jason, quote, who has more upside, Jalen Walker or Mason Graham, and which would provide the most immediate impact? This, of course, presumes the Patriots don't take Will Campbell.
Yeah, I'd say Graham probably has more immediate impact, but Walker's upside, I think, is much, much higher. Plays a higher impact position, can play multiple positions. I think his football IQ, when you just let him roam and read the football, this isn't a player comp, but like you see how the Niners kind of do that with Fred Warner. He got the Patriots on one of those last year. I think Walker, the only reason I'm not stronger on Walker at 4, I'm more worried about his floor. Like, I think his ceiling is among the best in that group. I just worry about being a tweener. He's not polished at either position. His ceiling's significantly high, though.
Yeah, I agree. It's not because I don't think Mason Graham has a high ceiling, though. I think that sometimes is baked into when you make comments about who has the higher floor. Oh, it's safer. It's more conservative. It's not always the case. You can have a high floor and a high ceiling. And I think Mason Graham has that as just a game wrecker. Like the fact that he was routinely and remains routinely graded above guys like Will Campbell and Jalen Walker in these conversations by the consensus board, Daniel Jeremiah, Dan Burglar, take your pick of your best draft analysts. Like he's a top 3, top 4 player in this class, maybe at 5 at worst. So I agree though, because of the versatility, Walker's a little bit younger. I do think the efficiencies there on the edge just might take a little while to see. And that's something you have to bake in, because when you draft someone at 4, you would want them to both make an immediate impact and have a long-term high ceiling. Sasha, is Mbembou in the picture, number 4, or is it basically down to Campbell and Walker?
I think he's in the picture. I mean, he's certainly in the picture. Like, he's one of the best players in this draft. He plays tackle. It's a premium position. They need a tackle. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think Mbembou has fans in the building, which is like the most popular phrase among Patriots analysts this offseason ahead of the draft. So-and-so has fans in the building. Thank you, Mike Giardi, who's definitely listening. I think it's down to Will Campbell, and that's just kind of what it is. Lord Savage of the Dark. Been a while, Lord Savage, first of all. Cole, I want a new kicker. Tell me who I should be a homer for in the 6th, 7th, and UDFA, which is not around, but the following rounds.
Oh, boy. Well, I left Andre Borregales off my list, so I still get to talk about him, which is good. I think that's the guy they're going to like. I like Ben Sauls better. He's kicked outdoors. He has a bigger leg. He was very successful at Acrisure Stadium, which is where Pitt plays, where the Steelers play. Often cited as the hardest stadium to kick in the NFL. He had a rough 2023, though. He was really good in 22 and 24, but he took a step back in 23. And when we were talking to Jeremy Springer about kickers the other week, the first thing he brought up, and he brought up multiple times, was consistency. And Andre Borregales, between 81 and 86% his first 3 years, and then went up to into the 90s last year, steadily growing. He's the most consistent kicker. He's good on kickoffs, which is something they're going to value as well. Those are the big 2 to me. The other guys I'd look for are Tyler Loop from Arizona, who probably is the biggest leg. Not super accurate, but he has a big leg. Think, what was his name? Quinn Nordine.
Yes.
Caden Price from Ole Miss. I can't believe I'm forgetting kicker names. And Ryan Fitzgerald.
It's very okay that you're forgetting kicker names.
I mean, I was on the radio on Monday talking about URI's long snapper. And Ryan Fitzgerald from Florida State had a really good year, but he didn't kick a lot. So it's like, how much that he's going to have to really crush workouts. Borregales and Sauls, I think, are the only ones that get drafted. The rest of those guys are UDFAs. But they should just sign Matt Gay and have a proven kicker and be good there. Like, this is me saying, I'm good if they don't draft a kicker. I would just sign the proven guy.
Earmuffs, Alex. This is only for Lord Savage of the Dark. Do not be a homer for any kickers, okay? We should all have learned our lessons with Roberto Aguayo, who goes in the 2nd round with the Bucs. One of the best kickers in college football history. 150 years. That guy is in any conversation. Best ever at his position. Okay, Chad Ryland, 4th round. Okay, Stephen Gostkowski, you could counter. 4th round was even better. Fine. Justin Rohrwasser, we don't have to go back through that. The value in the investment is not worth it. Maybe with the last pick in the 7th round that they have at 238 overall, fine. I wouldn't spend time, unless it is literally your job, as it is Alex's, to get into the kickers, because there's just so much volatility. And look, I knew Chad Ryland when he was in high school. I talked to his coaches. I talked to his coaches in college. The makeup was all there. The work ethic, the discipline, the fundamentals, great across the board. That's why he went higher than Stephen Gostkowski. They wanted to change some of his techniques. That's why it bottomed out here. But it's also because kickers have more volatility than any position in the league. So there's just kind of an unpredictability about it that I would say, just look, if you have to pick, listen to Alex, and then we'll move on.
So some of us saw past the whole goggle shtick with Aguayo and Blankenship, and wanted Tyler Bass that year. I don't know if you mentioned Blankenship, but people were saying look at the guy with the goggles. He's the next big thing. Some of us wanted Tyler Bass that year.
Well, he had like the 60 or 50. I was at this game, actually, the Rose Bowl, when they came back and beat Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield. He hit like a 55-yarder at halftime. Like, that guy had a legit leg.
And then he went to the Colts and sucked, and Tyler Bass is still in Buffalo, and Rohrwasser obviously didn't work out. He was that year too. But look, I'll say I'm kickers, punters, like, I will hype them up. I will be fans of them when warranted. Like, you guys remember me with Torrey Taylor. The Patriots didn't even need a punter, and I was like drooling over Torrey Taylor. That kicker or punter, by the way, this is not that, like, those guys don't exist in this draft. These are just guys. You're not getting that special kind of prospect that we talk about like that at these positions. They're all Borgalis and Sauls, I think, are a little bit above, but like none could get drafted. They're all kind of on the same standing. This isn't, again, to go back to that year where Jake Moody, who was an awesome prospect, another guy that is kind of shaky, but was an awesome prospect, was great at the Shrine Bowl. Patriots coached him. He goes top 100. Patriots rush up for Chad Ryland. I don't remember who it was. There was another kicker that year. There were like 3 kickers in the top 150. And it was
Michigan kid who went to the Niners.
Yeah, so it was Moody. He was first.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't remember who the third guy was, but like that was warranted that year. Like, those guys were another level of kicker. This is not a good kicker draft or punter draft. There aren't those kinds of guys. There's no Torrey Taylor. There is no Roberto Aguayo in this draft.
Okay. We have 3 more. One, I don't have anything on this. Okay. And I think it's been overblown, but do you know anything about the rumor that the Patriots are getting new uniforms? A couple of people asked about this.
So I think the rumor just started simply because they are eligible this year. When you make a uniform change, the NFL, you have to wait 5 years. My guess is it's not happening. And the reason I say that is generally, when teams make a uniform change, they do it before the draft, because for marketing reasons and all that, you don't want the draft pick standing up there with the jersey he's not going to wear, right? I think the COVID year, it was a little different, but that was COVID. So we got a week left. I think we would have at least seen some teasers or heard some rumblings. I think Mike Reese said he's not expecting it, so I think that's going to wait at least another year. But what I will say is that doesn't apply to like alternate uniforms. They didn't announce they were bringing the Reds back until after the draft. I don't know anything. This is just me guessing. I'm not reporting anything for when this gets aggregated. But I don't know. Maybe, they made the switch last year, it seems like, to the silver pants. I wonder if that's here to stay, if that's going to be permanent. And I don't know. Is there like another alternate or something, or some other combination coming? Like, that could still happen. But full change, I think the clock's run out. I think we're too late.
Yeah, not this year would be my sense. And if Mike Reese said it, it's as good as gold. I will say that the silver pants is kind of the way they split the difference, right? They kind of ease those in. Great reception. There's no big announcement and pushback and trying to figure out how people actually feel. Is it just the loudest people on the internet, or are they actually representative of a whole big fan base? Keep the silver pants would be my personal address. Go back to the Bledsoe Blues for at least a game or two with your throwbacks. Several teams have multiple throwbacks. I've had enough of the Pat Patriots. I appreciate it. This era gets more shine than any other era in any other franchise's history without winning anything really of consequence. They did go to the Super Bowl. I get it. I'm not trying to do like the youngish guy and shaking a finger back at older eras. I just missed my Bledsoe Blues. And you don't have to change the helmet.
Not to bum you out, but I found Reese's tweet. Haven't heard anything on the uniforms. We'll look into it again. Only thing decisive I heard on that was the throwbacks plan to remain the same and not the mid-90s Royal Blues as much.
Yeah, it's a mistake. This is for everyone in the New England Patriots. That is a mistake. We need to fix this. We need to right this wrong. But in the meantime, we have 2 more questions to answer. Joe, there's a lot of talk about what various first-round picks could become, but what would be the minimum outcome for the pick, assuming 4th overall, to be a success? For example, does Will Campbell or Mbembou need to make 1 or 2 Pro Bowls, or could they just be a top 15 tackle at their position and that is enough?
So it depends on position. Like Jalen Walker, I think you're expecting a little more accolades-wise. For the tackles, though, yeah, especially in this draft where there really aren't those great players. I brought up Nate Solder. Like, if you get 10 years, a little more than Nate Solder ideally, but like if you get 10 years of set it and forget it left tackle play, we're not talking about replacing Will Campbell. We're not talking about upgrading from him. We're not talking about benching him. He's just there. He's solid. Maybe he sneaks into a Pro Bowl, something like that. top 10 to 15 left tackle in the league. There are not 32 human beings on the planet that can play that position at a starting caliber NFL level. They just don't exist. They're for a number of reasons, and I've already kept Andrew past an hour rambling. I won't get into them. I've talked about them before. There's not 32 human beings that can do that. You find one of them who can just do it, that's a win in my book. In this draft, that's a win.
Yeah, I'm with you. Nate Solders is a great bar. It's a relatable bar for people to see it, experience it, remember it. You get Nate Solder again, and ideally maybe for another contract because he left for the Giants. So they regretted how much money they gave to him. Sorry?
He was 8 years, right?
Yeah.
So can you get a decade? Can you get a decade like 10, 11 years? And stylistically very different, but
I think 7. But yeah, I mean, whatever. It's just 1 year difference. So last one, Cy, someone else who hasn't written in a while. Patriots are a virtual lock to draft a tackle, receiver, interior defense alignment, tight end, running back. Considering the players and projections, come up with a group of players at each position you most likely see them drafting. Alex, I think we just did 50 minutes on this with our draft. So I think we're
running all the way back.
I think we're not going to run any of it back. I will just allow this question, which Cy, again, we just answered with the whole freaking episode, which is, it's not to wag a finger at him or them. It's just to say we have all those answers. I will use this time to list the other players that I did not say on my board. And these are, again, for a couple of reasons. We're not going to do a whole big scouting report. Nick Martin, linebacker, Oklahoma State, took a 30 visit, 5'11", 221, hurt last year, but was a tackling machine in 2023. Just people rave there supposedly about his character. Mike Vrabel, linebacker. Kyle Williams, receiver at Washington State. Another took a 30 visit to Foxborough. This is a guy who gets open. They need that, and he was surprisingly good for someone who's 5'11" on deep balls. You love to see that. Darius Alexander, defensive tackle out of Toledo. This would be a pick at 38 that would surprise some folks. Another big Senior Bowl performer, took a 30 visit. Those are the names to keep in mind. Again, players that performed in the way the Patriots want, and they bothered to invite to come out here with only 30 visits allowed.
Yeah, I mentioned something we were talking, Ozzie Trapillo, Andres Borgalis, a couple you had, Kyle Williams, Mac McWilliams. I almost put Max Brosmer on. I do. If he goes undrafted or with one of those 7th-round picks, they need another quarterback just to go through camp. You need another arm. Brosmer's not somebody who's going to, if they're worried about pushing for the starting job, like Brosmer is much more backup, paint-by-number kind of quarterback. He was at UNH for 4 years. There's local familiarity. He might go a little higher and they're willing to take quarterback, but if he falls, I could see them bringing him in.
Yeah, I like it. Local connection. Kid transferred to Minnesota, was fine, solid there. It feels like a Josh McDaniels backup. Again, it's just not overwhelming arm strength, just accurate enough, smart, can handle it. That's what they're going to ask for him. Someone who knows what the third quarterback's supposed to do and accepts that. And didn't have that with Joe Milton, so they traded him, which I don't want to relitigate. All right, you have been incredibly kind with the time. You're about to go on to that 2 to 6 show. And he's the big man with the big board in big draft season. Alex Barth, this was great. I will keep score. If you win is projected at, maybe I shouldn't have said any other betting companies, but the folks at Prize Picks would say over on your picks made correctly. We have 7 here. If I get more, you owe me some beer, but we'll figure it out next week. Thank you for the time, the insight, and all the research, man. I hope you go to the beach or play golf or something in a couple of weeks, all right?
It's Sunday. I got my last show of Patriots beat at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I'm going to be on the beach. If it's raining, I'm bringing an umbrella. I don't care. That's the plan.
Good for you. All right, see you soon, buddy.
Bye.